One, I just wanted to share with you what I discovered this week. It's blowing my mind. I actually was working on trying to figure out which constellations are the four horses of the apocalypse. And by doing that, I found some old constellations, and I actually found the mushroom in the sky. And I actually found, I do believe it's Jesus, an old constellation. Okay, it's just mind-blowing, and I'm really excited to show this to you. And then as I was putting this together, Cindy dropped me an email of Elton John's song that he did. It's actually two of his songs, Rocket Man, where he never says Rocket Man, and then Sacrifice, Cold, Cold Heart, and there's a cartoon with it. And it has all the symbolism in it. And so I want to share that with you because it has a unicorn in it. And this all ties into one of the four horses of the apocalypse. So it's like, it's like, the synchronicity is getting crazy. So he's taking the two songs and combining them, but he never says Rocket Man, okay, because it's not the good path. And this is the Sacrifice song. It's two hearts living in two separate worlds. And that's you have to connect to your higher self in the other realm. But it's no sacrifice. Mutual misunderstanding after the fact. Sensitivity builds a prison in the final act. We lose direction, no stone unturned, no tears to damn you when jealousy burns. So it's like when you have a cold heart, you can't get to this other realm. Okay, so it's like you're in a prison. And then the Rocket Man lyrics, till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. And then it goes, Mars ain't the kind of place to raise your kids. In fact, it's cold as hell. And there's no one there to raise them if you didn't. And all this science I don't understand. It's my job 5 days a week. So there you go. So it's like, with Elon Musk going to Mars and the moon and everything, I do think this realm is going to really get like barren, like radiation barren, like, no electricity. And I guess it's like smart cities and trying to get off the planet. I think this realm is where it's going. I honestly do. That's what they're showing us. And it seems like it's just a cyclical thing that happens on this planet, and then the Earth reboots itself. Here they have the Ascension butterfly, the flower, which is actually a rose, and then they're dressed in purple and white, and then also we have the moon, right? So those are all the symbols. There's lots of symbolism there for Ascension. The rose represents DNA, because if you look at a strand of DNA, like from the top down, like if you're looking like down the ladder, it looks like a rose. Hence why keeping your body pure DNA, not altered by any medical apparatus that they're trying to give us, is really the optimal way of getting to ascension. So they end up stepping through the eye of God. And of course, she's dressed now in the red and white Amanita muscaria colors. And then when Elton steps through, he's dressed up as kind of like a leprechaun, which would be reference to the greenery to do with the pale horse, right? He's a pale green horse, and it represents spring, rebirth, green. So they walk through the eye of God, and then they come to paradise. And look what the clouds are in the background. There's Pegasus and also the rabbit, and there's a castle. You can just see it behind Elton. There's a castle. Follow the white rabbit is not the good path in Alice in Wonderland, right? It's like you're just chasing time. You're just going around and around chasing time. But it's also in Chinese mythology, the rabbit is on the moon. If you can go Google rabbit moon, there's a rabbit on the moon that looks like a rabbit. And this is a mythology in Chinese where the rabbit is creating the elixir for the gods. He's stirring the pot. So this is where the harvest happens, is on the moon. Remember the Aretha Franklin album with the inside cover of the Hey Now album? And there's one guy that's asleep up in the clouds. So going up into the sky, the cloud, going to the castle on Pegasus. I'm going to explain the mythology, how that's not the good path, because Neptune rules the dream world. And Neptune, even though Neptune is outside of the front of Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, Neptune rules the moon card, which is the path to the harvest. Okay, so the cloud is not the good path. And he's showing all this in this song, that paradise is when you come back down to earth, when you're grounded. You have to remember, Neptune rules Pisces. Pisces mantra is I believe. So you're in a belief system that you're going to follow into the clouds, because Neptune is foggy. It's your imagination. It's your dream world. It's like the bad part of Neptune is that you're not seeing reality. Okay, you're not seeing the truth. You're kind of in a fog. The good part of Neptune is you can become metaphysical through your feet, which is your souls. That's where Pisces is. The Pisces is, spirituality as well. It's not just I believe. It has a good and bad, right? So Pisces is your soul's actually the fish, and your two souls. You have to connect to the other realm. So here they have the little fish coming out of their feet, which is your souls. And then they have them turning into doves, which is the representation of you're the white dove going up into the sky and sacrificing. You're taking that sacrifice path. You're becoming the dove. So when you work with the plants and you're connected to the plants and the Amanita muscaria, your third eye opens. And this is why all the flowers have the third eye open. There's 4 characters in this video that they're showing, and I'm assuming they're like representing the 4 fixed cross signs. And then, of course, they have the 4 planets, and then there's the 4 characters are on the planets, and then there's a doorway out. So I'm thinking these planets might be Neptune, which is on Pi Day. Saturn's there, and the other one might be Earth and Venus. So they're all there on Pi Day in conjunction with the sun, right? And that's really important. So on March 14th, 2025. So here they show a unicorn with green wings in the sky, and those 2 pink things are the eyes of God. Okay, so this is what I wanted to explain, how Pegasus is not the good horse, and this horse is the good horse. So we're going to get into the horses, and then we're going to get into where the mushroom is and where Jesus is in the sky, in this old constellation I found. So I found this picture of the 4 horses. You'll see the white horse on the left. The guy has a bow, an arrow, and he also has a laurel leaf crown. Then the red horse always has the sword, and the black horse always has the scale, and the pale horse represents death, which I did a video, the previous video I did, which it's after death follows Hades. Okay, so people just take that and go, oh, after death, death means hell. That's how they shorten it. Instead of going, oh, after, death, or let's say rebirth, Hades follows, which is your soul, Pluto. But it's being misinterpreted and just going, oh, the death means hell. Okay, so that's how that all got twisted. So it's easy to figure out, the white horse, because he's supposed to represent Jesus or the Antichrist. And Jesus would be Jupiter, Jesus. He's the kind of the glory of this realm is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and he has a bow and arrow. So he's a centaur, half horse, half man, but it would represent that white horse. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is like at the Golden Gate, right? It's where the Milky Way has this golden bubble in it, and that's called the Golden Gate. That ties to San Francisco's Golden Gate. Now, if you notice at the bottom of Jupiter, Sagittarius, is a constellation called Corona Australis, And that is the logo for the United Nations. So this is the path of, globalism, smart cities, the whole groupthink, um, you know, take the vaccine kind of path. That's that path. So it's not a really good path because it's I can and I will and I'll just follow. Okay, that's what the mantra is of Sagittarius, is I can. And on the mutable cross, across from it, Jupiter is on the moon pillar as well with Pisces, and that's I believe. So it's I can believe. Okay, and then Mercury's on the ladder, so it's I can believe, I serve, I speak to serve. That's the mutable cross mantra. I can believe, I speak to serve. The cardinal cross mantra is I am, I feel. Okay, it's I am, I feel. And this is I have balance. Capricorn, I do. So it's I feel, I am, I feel, I do have balance. That's the cardinal cross mantra. That's where you want to go. Fixed cross is collapsing. Now the black horse has scales, and everybody assumes it's Libra, but there's this horse in the sky called Equalus, right? Equalus. So because the scales has no horse with it, Libra. So this, I believe, is the horse that works with the scales because it has the name in its own name. It's Equalus, equal. It's the scales. So that would be the black horse that represents souls that are hungry when this event goes down, like they're starving, but they still get to go on the good path because it's famine and it's not your choice that you've been put in that position. So these would be the people that don't go to smart cities and don't take, that path, but they're hungry. They didn't ascend, but they're hungry. So it says in the Bible, halfway through tribulation, the first group ascends. Okay, so you basically disappear. You put the helm of Hades on. You're no longer part of the matrix, but you're here, but you're not here. The other group doesn't ascend. They don't go groupthink, and they're just like hungry because like the fixed cross is collapsing. They're stocking up their food. They're like got their guns and they're trying to live off the land. And then the last group ends up going to the hell realm because they're in total follow. They're the walking zombies. They're just following AI. Okay, those are the three groups, and that's really what the horses represent. They represent these different paths. I've explained how Gemini is actually two horses before, and the combination of the two horses creates the eight-legged horse for Odin. It's Sleipnir. But Pollux is the one twin that is an immortal, so he basically ascends. And then Castor doesn't ascend, he's mortal. So the two horses are important, and I want to go through the mythology of these two horses. The myth of Gemini twins ride two horses, the immortal steeds Celerus and Harpagus. It seems that Equalus is Celerus, that's the one I was saying, would represent the famine horse, but I'm not too sure about that. And Harpagus, or Harpacus, must be Pegasus. The two centaur horses, they're centaurs now, see? They are centaurs. Celerus and his wife, Hylonomi, might relate to these two adjacent constellations, Equalus and Pegasus. Celerus is identified with Equalus. Hylonom, browser of the woods, is from the district Pegasus, similar to Pegasus and pagan, etc. So maybe he is, maybe the Celerus is actually, Equalus, and I'm not sure about that, but anyhow, I wanted to go through this to show you that Pegasus and his mythology with Pegasus. So there's still a bit of a mystery of who is Celerus, which horse is he, but I did find the horse that is the pale horse. Okay, so I'm assuming Equalus is actually Libra. So Pegasus is kind of on his back, just between Pisces and Aquarius. And right at the top of his nose, you'll see the little head of Equus. So we always think Pegasus is like a good horse, right? He's not a good horse. He's the red horse. Here's an artwork of a black and red horse being Castor and Pollux. So that's why I'm convinced that Equus is actually, maybe he is Celerus, but it's the black horse. It's for famine. And the red horse is Pegasus. The statues are all over Europe. You know, they always have Gemini with the horses. So this is interesting because they're trying to see, like, where did Celerus come from? They're saying here he was given to Pollux, that's the immortal twin, by Juno. And Juno comes in a lot, like in that Manifest show with the plane, they use Juno a lot, okay? And the symbolism with the peacock. And then they're also saying here, well, maybe Mercury gave him to Castor. But Castor is the one that is not ascended, right? He's just a mortal. So I think Celerus is the black horse, and he was probably given to Pollux by Juno. And then Pegasus would go with Castor, who is not mortal. Immortal, sorry. He's only mortal. And that ties into the rider that rode Pegasus and what happened to him. So I want to get into that. So we know Ganymede was taken, by this king, carried off by Zeus, and he's Aquarius, and he's the bearer, the cupbearer to give the nectar of the gods to Zeus, right? Now they're saying here that Celerus represents, like in the etymology of the words, it's like to race, to celebrate, to accelerate. So it's like, it's really ascension. That's the terminology that the word Celerus means. It's really to celebrate. And he was given to, the horses were given to Ganymede's father because of Zeus taking Ganymede. That's the story, the mythology. Then I found this other story. It's a bit long, but it's about what happens. He's jet black. They're saying he's jet black. So he's unblemished to his equine shape. So he was really attractive. And then he had his girlfriend, right? Hylonomi embraced him when he died. He got stabbed in his chest. Just a random sword came and killed him. And so then she killed herself because he died when they pulled the sword out. So it's a little bit like Romeo and Juliet, like she finds him dead and then she kills herself, right? So, but it's saying here he was jet black. But they're saying he's Castor's horse. So it's a discrepancy of who is Castor riding, right? Is he riding Celerus or is he riding Pegasus? I still think he's Pollux's horse because here they're saying Hylonomi, Celerus's wife, they're both centaurs, that she kills herself on the spear. Her name means woodland pastures, and that is kind of referring to ascension. So the immortal Pollux would be riding this horse, this Celerus horse. And I think that he is representing famine in the apocalypse because it has to do with love and balance and this love relationship that between him and the horse, the centaur, and his wife, right? It's all like, because Libra rules the house of relationship. So that's why this is all tied into their story, their love story. So Belafonte was Pegasus's rider and was one of the most celebrated heroes of myth. He was the son of the god Poseidon, so he's Neptune's son. Okay, and Belafonte captures the winged horse Pegasus as it came to drink from the town's fountain. So it's always to do with the fountain, right? The nectar of the gods. He was later exiled for the murder of the family member and journeyed to the court of King Protasus in Argos for purification. The queen, however, developed a lust for the hero. So he had this whole, story, and then she ended up, getting angry at him because he wouldn't take on her advances. So then he had to go fight this Chimera, which is like a fire-breathing dragon beast, and that was ravaging the land. And he had to go fight this because the queen was mad at him. So he rode into battle against the beast on the back of Pegasus and slew it by driving a lead-tipped spear into the fiery gullet. The king then ordered him to subdue the barbarous Solomon tribe and later the Amazons. But again, he proved victorious. So anyhow, he keeps fighting, right? So then, despite all of his successes, Belafonte was still not satisfied and sought to ascend to heaven on the back of Pegasus. But Zeus was angered by his presumption and set a gadfly to sting the horse, causing it to buck and cast the hero back down to earth. And after this, he wandered the world alone, despised by both God and men. So, yeah, so, it says here the etymology of Belafonte's name means slayer of the Belarus or Fontos. However, it is likely that the name originally meant wielder of the missiles. So, yeah, so it's a missile, Pegasus. So the whole story is he doesn't get to supposedly the heaven where the gods are, and he gets thrown back to earth. So after, he sacrificed all, trying to please the gods. So it's basically what man does, right? We try to please the gods, and then we just get thrown back here. And it's funny, in the 100 show, the hero that ends up, taking the wrong path, the I believe path, the Neptune path, is Bellarmine. So they used his name to Belafonte's. So not only did Pegasus buck him off and create him to be just mortal man, he also was born, like Pegasus was born from the neck of Medusa. Okay, so Perseus ends up killing Cytis, attacking Cytis to free Andromeda, this girl that is the Queen of Heaven's daughter, and she's tied to a rock. And then he ends up getting Medusa's head and scaring the monster. Anything that looks at Medusa turns to stone, so it's like a weapon. But when, I guess, he chopped the head off of Medusa, out sprang Pegasus. Okay, so Pegasus is born from the demon eye head, because Medusa has a demon eye. That's the evil eye in the sky. So there you go. So Pegasus is the war horse. He's not a nice horse. So basically, Pegasus gets to Mount Olympus in the sky, and then Zeus brings him into his stable, and one of the wing feathers fell to earth close to Tarsus, giving the city its name. It is said that Pegasus bears for Jupiter the lightning and thunder. Okay, so the lightning and thunder that comes from Zeus, Pegasus is helping him with that. Pegasus was a great favorite for the 9 muses who gathered around the Mount Helicon spring to sing and dance, and for its waters was said to bring poetic inspiration. It's the fountain of youth, and that's where the horse drinks out of, because he got up to Mount Olympus, and he didn't bring his rider, Belafonte. He threw him back to earth. So we know the red horse is really Pegasus, the war horse. Now we know Equus or Silurus is the black horse. It represents Libra, balance. And then the white horse we know is Sagittarius. And behind Sagittarius is Capricorn, who is like the devil. So that's, I guess, why they say it's the Antichrist or the Christ, because it could be both. But it's really Jupiter on Sagittarius. And then who's the pale horse, right? The pale horse is the one that takes you to Hades. And actually, you become born again on the pale horse. And this is, everybody thinks it's bad, but it's actually the good path. So let's figure out who the pale horse is. Now, in The Wizard of Oz, look, there's a green guy, like a little leprechaun, you know, with this horse of many colors. Sometimes he's purple, sometimes he's green, but he's often pale and white. So he is, the pale horse in the sky. And let's go find him. Elton John was telling us, the little green guy. Okay, this is to do with spring. Chloros, pale green. That's really to do with greenery. The true etymology of the word in Greek. So here he is, Monoceros. He's the unicorn in the sky just below Gemini. And he has a little dog on his back. The constellation is Canis Minor. The Sirius star is Canis Major. And he is the predecessor in the sky as the warning that Sirius is coming. Okay, he's important. And he's also part of the winter hexagon in the sky. Now, on July 4th, at 666, this is what's in the sky. On the helical rising is Ophiuchus, the doorway, Libra. Virgo, Leo, and Cancer are all up in the sky. Virgo being the Virgin Mary, Leo ruled by the sun, Cancer ruled by the moon, Gemini, and Monoceros, the unicorn, is on the descending sign. 666 is the number of man, the beast. Okay, because we're not awakened yet. We're not enlightened. Ophiuchus is the doorway. It's the key out of here. Chiron rules it, Pluto's moon. And he's a centaur that teaches Asclepius, the guy that holds the snake in Ophiuchus. Okay, so this isn't really important, at that time of day in the United States, very two important things are happening. The doorway's there and the unicorn. The dog days of summer started in Egyptian mythology July 23rd. Okay, July 23rd is when Cancer the sun is in Cancer. But when you understand how the sky works, the constellations are moving clockwise, and the sun and the planets are moving counterclockwise. So they're kind of like opposing each other, but it's right on the helical rising. And Procyon is just coming up, and it's warning Sirius is coming. Sirius is Canis Major, the dog, and he is the Enlightenment Star. Okay, this is the star that represents enlightenment. It's like a whiteness to him. Okay, so I went through this once before, but this star is enlightenment. So this is why this time of the year is so important, and this is actually at 666 in the morning. Okay, this is on July 23rd. Actually, my birthday. So at the helical rising at the east, Sirius is coming up, Cancer and the sun, the sun and the moon, are together, which is the two pillars. But Monoceros, the unicorn, with his little dog on his back, is coming up on the helical rising, right at the east. And then at the south, Phoenix, which is Ascension. And at the west is Aquila, which is, the eagle, right? Which is what the United States has big symbolism to. And then Capricorn is there as well. He's one of the zodiac. Capricorn is the key to the golden age, right? So it's all like, it's amazing how the symbolism is totally relating to nature and how they named all these constellations. It's like, it's right there. It's a storybook in the sky. I love this it looks like a tapestry. They have the rabbit, they have the dog, so they have the two paths, and they got rabbits everywhere, and I guess this is Monoceros, right? So he's the unicorn, and she's getting him to look in the mirror because he's so beautiful. And the lion's there, which represents the sun, which, the sun is what represents ascension. That's what, you can see that in the video that Elton John did. It's always to do with the sun, right? So it's like, wow, it's just so beautiful. So Monoceros, the unicorn, means one. And then he's a mythical beast depicted with the body of a horse and a spiral horn on its forehead. The unicorn was said to have the property of being able to neutralize poison. The picture of the unicorn was an apothecaris symbol. The powdered root of the unicorn horn was believed to be pancreas for just about all illnesses. So it cures you, right? So what's in the horn, right? It's the cornucopia. It's the nectar of the gods, right? That's what's inside. It's the harvest is inside. So it's saying here, ancient Greek writers associated the unicorn with the hippomonocurata, one-horned asses, in which it is said the fabulous unicorn of the medieval besterias are derived from the creature of the Greek legend. The only likely extant earthly representation of the mythical beast is believed to be the rhinoceros, the narwhal, in the sea representation, see below. Yeah, so it goes into the narwhal, okay, because that's like a fish that has this big, huge spear off its nose. So it could go to the rhinoceros, but I think it's more to do with the narwhal, because there's lots of symbolism to that. So when Jupiter was born, he had to be sent away because his father was going to kill him, and this goat nursed him. And so this goat had this horn, and this would be the cornucopia, and this would be the nectar of the gods. So narwhal, the etymology goes back to naris, which means nose, nostril. Now it's important to understand this because the unicorn in the sky, Monoceros, has a really important nebula right on its nose. It's the Rose Nebula, and I'll show that to you. But what's interesting here is that they're saying this also ties into a Christian story. So there's a Christian story associated with the neutralizing of the poisons that parallels the unicorn and the rhinoceros horn detoxifying attributes. So it's in Benedict 547 AD, is called Father of the Western Monasterism. So there's a group of monks asked him to join them, later resisting his strict rules. They tried to poison him. So Saint Benedict is represented by a cup, sometimes cracked, because it is said the blessed the cup of poison and rendered it harmless. So it was like this poison that you don't get sick from it. I think it has to do with radiation that's going to come on the planet. You know, the pole shifting, the magnetic poles, it's going to cause radiation. And it's going to make people sick and make them have sores. And the people that are in bliss and able to kind of find the nectar of the gods, it doesn't affect them. Okay? So the monad, according to the Pythagoreans, was a term for God for the first being. So that's why it's monoceros. It's mono, it's God. Okay, this unicorn represents God. The concept of a unicorn is very real, even if the unicorn itself does not exist. The unicorn is likened to the concept of God. So etymology, suros, means series. So mono means God, and Ceres she's the harvester. She's actually the mother of Persephone. And, you know, Persephone goes to the immortal land and then comes back to mortal land. But anyhow, Ceres is in the Apostles of Washington painting and in the Capitol building. And also she represents the harvest, which would be Virgo. She's, you know, all of the goddesses are Virgo or Venus. You know, Venus in the planets, Virgo in the constellations, the woman. In Buddhism, number 9 is freedom. So here's the narwhal. It's like the fish, and it has a 9-foot long tooth. Was passed off as a horn of a unicorn. So the depictions of the constellation is like a narwhal horn. It's a spiraling narwhal horn. So yeah, and the unicorn is the constellation is usually depicted from the spiral narwhal horn, and this is Monoceros, and near the nose of the unicorn. They're saying that there's a Rose Nebula. Now, Rose is it ties into DNA, right? It's the Rose Nebula. So it's right on his nose. And then there's a cone nebula, which is called the Christmas tree cluster. So it ties into Christmas. So, you know, back to Santa Claus and the mushroom and Jesus. So this is the Christmas tree cluster. And this is the Rose Nebula. That's really beautiful. So I wonder if that's where the phrase "don't look a gift horse in the mouth" comes from, right? Because it's like the rose is what the Rosicrucians, that's their symbol, is the rose. It's all to do with DNA and activating your DNA, keeping your temple pure. This is like the rose with the cross on the stem, which is Venus, right? Venus is the rose. She makes the Rose Nebula in the sky with Earth conjunctions. And then they have the honey, which is the nectar of the gods. The bee, the beehive, the cyborg. Yeah, so the beehive is like, you know, they work as a hive mind, and it's groupthink, it's mutable cross. So here is the winter hexagon that I mentioned before. These are all the stars that are in it. It's Cabela up in Auriga, and then you have Taurus, which is Aldebaran. You have Rigel, which is in the bottom of Orion. Then you have Sirius at the bottom there. That's in Canis Major. And then you have Procyon, which is the little dog that's on the back of Monoceros, the unicorn. So you see how if you create the Y to make it like into a cube, it goes right on the Rose Nebula, and then above it is the hammer of God, right? So this is why the blood moons, I said, we're always going to this place in the sky on the hammer of Orion. So it's really an important location in the sky. I knew it was intuitively, but I didn't have proof that it was the horse to ride. So I'm really excited. Now it's all making sense. And, you know, being in the Wizard of Oz movie and everything, it's totally like, I get what they're saying now. This is the pale horse, and the pale horse is what takes you to this higher dimensional reality that's basically the Garden of Eden when you start to transmute through the fear, the division, and the isolation, and you start to do your inner work, and you watch this realm collapse. And it's hard, right? We're all going through it. We're watching it getting more chaotic and collapsing, and then the people in groupthink are just fine with it, like they don't have a problem with it at all, it seems, right? And so it's bizarro, but this is what has to happen, because the sun will come into this realm and create a higher frequency that if you're in this bliss state and you're able to control your emotions and work through your fear, which is Pluto, your soul. That's what you came here for, to work through your fears. And once you can do that, you're rewarded the key from Saturn, which is on the Cardinal cross, right? A Capricorn. So back to the narwhal. They're saying here it's a process of dying or death, right? That's what ascension is. It's essentially you're kind of dying from this realm. You're no longer attached to the matrix, right? And then they're saying it's corpse or death of a whale. In Old Norse, it's Narvar, so it's like a whale death. And that could be Sittis. Sittis is the beast, right? And he is AI. He's attached to Pisces, which is, I believe, in religion, in the institutional religions, right? Which they're trying to get you to float. Like they're trying to make you believe the sky is the savior, right? Not inside of you. So there are a few reasons narwhals were known as corpse whales. They often swim belly up, and their propensity to lie on the surface in the summer, called logging, gave that impression. Okay, so they swim with their bellies up, And then there's this association with the river Styx. This is really important, okay? So the river Styx, yeah, the river Styx was an ancient Greek association with the unicorn. Now the river Styx, I'm going to do a video on the rivers, okay? Because this is super important. This Chiron or Charon, Charron, is a moon of Pluto, and he is the ferry man, that guides you across this river. And there's this whole mythology about the rivers and what each river does, and I will get into that in another video. But I'm really fascinated. I wanted to show you guys that the river Styx is associated with the unicorn. So this is really, really important. So then they're saying this mythology about Narcissus, who was a youth and he always wanted to look at himself in the mirror. And he was a narcissist. He died gazing at his own image, and then was turned into a flower. And that's why you have Narcissus flowers. Narcissus flowers. So if it is said that Narcissus still keeps gazing on his image in the waters of the river Styx in the underworld, he was loved by the nymph Echo. She was in the 100 show Echo. And the theme here being that he was wanted to be alone and had no need for another. Well, that's the unicorn, right? It's because we're going to feel alone. And I'm so blessed to have all you guys to talk to on a regular basis. It's so wonderful for me because I don't feel alone. And I would love to be able to give you guys that as well. Maybe start to do these Zoom chats eventually, okay? So we can all just talk. Because I know it's hard to be alone, but that's part of the path of the Hermetic path. You become the hermit, and you have to be willing to be the unicorn and stick out and be on your own so that, you're not in groupthink anymore. Okay, so then they're saying Officina Typographica was a printing office. It was a constellation situated between the feet of the unicorn. Okay, so at the bottom of the feet of the unicorn, they're saying the typo element of the word is a cognate with the word Styx. Both these words from the Indo-European roots. Okay, so wow, so typo ends up meaning Styx. But anyhow, I was really curious about this. I was like, I need to look into this old constellation. And bam, guess what I found? I found the mushroom. I couldn't believe it. I was like, there's a mushroom? That's the Amanita muscaria. She's with the unicorn. So then I was looking, I'm like, there's a window. What's the window for? And I had just been researching Chinese words. I can't even remember why now. And then I had found out that the window means freedom, right? And they have like windows on the computer. So they're using that symbolism because they want you to think AI, groupthink, is freedom. So even in Chinese astrology, the Monoceros location is the vermilion bird, right? There's like four symbols that they have, and the vermilion bird is really the phoenix. So the Chinese astrology has this part of the sky as the phoenix. Okay, so then there's the little white dog on the back. So then I was like, okay, I better look at all the old constellations, right? There's something in here. So Rang-Efer, also known as Tardinus, is this reindeer. So now we have the reindeer, which ties to the Amanita muscaria mushroom, right? And this is what the shamans used to do in the Nordic countries. So they would gather the mushrooms, and then they would actually notice that the reindeer like to eat the mushrooms as well. So then instead of taking the mushrooms internally and getting stomach aches from it, they would drink the pee of the reindeer. And this is where you get Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It's all symbolism to Santa Claus, okay? Now, Santa Claus and Christmas, of course, is the birth of Christ, right? So it all ties back to the mushroom. And I'll give a little shout out to Reindeer Amanita. Go check out his website. So here they're saying, the reason that they put the reindeer there was because there was a comet that was going through there in 1742. So I was like, okay, I need to figure out what this comet is about, because they're saying the Sami people of northern Scandinavia also visualized a reindeer called Sarvas or Sava among the stars. But theirs was much bigger, incorporating Auriga, Perseus, Cassiopeia, and Cepheus, which is like the king and queen. Like, it was a huge reindeer in the sky. So now we're starting to know, oh my God, they've hidden the reindeer. They hid Rudolph. So this is the comet. I actually found a picture of it. Okay, I couldn't believe it. It was really hard to find. I had to go back and all the comet lists, and it wasn't easy to find this. I just happened to come across it. So it went all the way up to the North Pole, this comet. So it ties in Santa Claus to the North Pole. I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding me? And so, this is why it was so important, right? And it went by lyra. Lyra was a bird, not just a lyra. A lyre, the musical instrument. It was a bird at one point. And so anyhow, I couldn't believe it. It all ties into the North Pole. So I wanted to see what was going on in the sky at the same time as this comet was going through. Where are the main planets? So here's the old poster of it. So I found that it went through on March 13th, which is like a day before Pi Day, right? So now we got Pi Day coming into this, which is like amazing. And then it went through to April 25th. So I went to check it out. Here's the full-size poster for the comet. So the big players, Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter, which is Zeus, which is Jesus. Okay, he's the god of this realm. He's on the manger of Christ when this comet was going through the North Pole. And, why they put the reindeer in the constellation there. So, I'm like, oh my God. So it's in the Gateway of Man, which is Cancer, the only constellation ruled by the moon. And this has to do with your roots, your cultural roots, your memory, because it's the moon. And then Saturn is in the Lion's Gate. Okay, so I was like, wow, that's important. And where Jupiter is, it's called the Beehive Cluster. You can't make this stuff up. It's the nectar. So this is where the comet went through. Okay, so it was going through by Lyra, through by Cygnus, up to Cepheus, which is the king of the sky. Cassiopeia is the queen. Now, the reindeer would have been where this Camel O Paradiddles constellation is. Okay, so they took the reindeer out and swapped it with a camel. Okay, so they don't want us to know about the North Pole. And see where the N is for north? That is Polaris. That's the northern star. That's what all the constellations circle around. It stays fixed. It doesn't move in the sky. It's at the tip of the bear's tail, the small bear, Minor. Ursa Minor. Ursa Major is where the Big Dipper is. Okay, so, well, the camel was there. Sorry, the camel was there, but there's the reindeer. It was on the back of the camel. Okay, so they didn't swap it. They just disappeared the guy. Okay, so there's a guy with him, right? And his name is Custos Messian. So I'm like, got to figure out what that means. Who's Custos Messian? I couldn't believe the etymology of this wording. Okay, so this far northern constellation, right, because it's right at the North Pole, was introduced by the French astronomer Joseph Jerome. Okay, so then they're saying here it was on the celestial globe in 1775 and was described by him in accompanying a pamphlet titled Explicita de Nouveau Globe Celeste. Okay, so it's all in French. Hang on. So the name Custos Messian is a punning reference to a countryman, Charles Messier, the famed comet hunter. And in fact, a constellation was often known simply as Messier. Okay, but, so they're saying, oh no, it's just about the guy that was chasing the comets, right? So in a way, they're giving you a little breadcrumb there because it's about the comet. Okay, and then they're saying the sky because there was a comet in 1774. But I can maybe go track that one, but I'm pretty convinced it was the other one that has to do with why the reindeer was put there. So I went in and started doing the etymology of the word Messian and Custos. Now, you got to notice here, they're saying that this constellation is the harvest keeper. So he's harvesting something, and he's with the reindeer. So what do you think he's harvesting? He's harvesting Amanita muscaria, is what he's harvesting. And this is why we have the mushroom, Adam Reindeer, right, who is like promoting or helping people have access to Amanita muscaria mushrooms. It's all in Christianity. It's the tree of life is the mushroom. You have Adam and Eve with the spotted mushroom. There's all these pictures. There's tons and tons and tons of old ancient stained glass windows with the mushroom, with Christ. So, this is being hidden from us. This is being stolen from us. So we don't have this information. And it was these astronomers put it in the sky because they knew it was important, or maybe they were, like, we'll put it there and then, somebody else, we'll take it out so people can't figure it out. But the sky is the storybook. Look to the heavens and you'll find the answers. And, we are finding them. So, but it is fun. It's like a little Easter egg hunt, trying to find the little Easter eggs, which were originally mushrooms. The kids used to go out in the forest and gather the mushrooms, and they look like little Easter eggs when they start popping out of the ground. So Santa Claus, is the original shaman, which is in a way tied to Christ, and then Easter is tied to Christ, right? So we have the two holidays that are both tied to Christ, but they're also tied to the Amanita muscaria. So when I put the word in Custos in etymology, it means custody. So from Custos, it means guardian, keeper, protector, right? So if you're in custody, you have custody of your child, you're the guardian. So that's what Custos means. So he's the guardian, the protector, the harvester. And then when I put Messian in, it comes up as Messiah. So there we go. So it's Christos, the Christ. Okay, so the Christ is gathering up the mushrooms to help people get to this DMT level so that you can connect to the other realm, right? The higher realms. And it's done through the mushrooms because it's the true internet. It's the mycelium network. It's like it's underneath the ground connecting into Earth, into Mother Nature, which holds memory, in the water, which they've discovered that water holds memory. So it's our true ancestral roots is through, the ley lines and the memory of past people and your ancestral roots, and the trauma that those people have taken on is in your DNA. So it's like it's networking through this whole nature organism, and they're trying to make it like an internet that is like Wi-Fi that's actually hurting us, right? It's the AI. The AI is good, but it also, because it connects people, but at the same time, I think we have a higher ability to connect through, telekinesis and telepathic abilities once we know how to use it. Okay, so there's an exciting world ahead of us if you can get there and try to work through this process where you have to let go of the matrix and let go of the fear, right? Let go of the money world. It's not going to be easy for a lot of people. It's hard. And you go through trauma, letting go. It's like going through a divorce. Okay, so anyhow, it's all very exciting because now we know, okay, Santa Claus is really Jesus, and the reindeer, it's all tied to the mushrooms. So, it's like being a little kid again and discovering Santa Claus. And if you believe, you will see that world. But only if you believe. They've been telling us this since we were little kids. So believe, stay in bliss, just watch the drama as it unfolds. And, yes, you're going to lose some of your freedoms up in Canada here. Now we're not allowed to travel. It's getting crazy. But I'm still happy because it's like it's happening. It's actually happening. So this is what we want, right? We want it to kind of crumble But we want to help people, but they don't want this path. They want the group think, and they have to experience it and live that. And if they want to take that COVID smart patch that's coming down the tubes and they go live in the smart cities, they will experience that. They will experience more darkness and lose their freedoms because they didn't bother fighting for hours. It's all part of the process. Okay, so anyhow, if anybody else wants to have readings, it's really fun to kind of know your map, your lessons that you chose for yourself to learn. And it's not scary. It's not like, oh, there's something bad's going to happen. It's all yin and yang, and it's all working through your soul's trauma and then trying to understand how to work through that trauma. And that's what the 3 Saturn returns, well, the natal, the 1st and 2nd Saturn returns teach you, is how to work through these things so that you can get to bliss state. And just know yourself and don't question yourself anymore and just go, well, I'm like that because I'm like this and I'm an original. You have to be the unicorn, and it's okay to be different. Okay, this is the path, and we're feeling different because we're supposed to. Okay, so anyhow, and I love talking with you guys, and I love that you guys share stuff with me, and I appreciate you so much. And this has been a really wonderful journey for me to share this stuff with you. Bliss to you all. Happy Thanksgiving. Be grateful.